Hey everybody, it's Kristen, and today I have our Cotton Cuts Puzzle Mystery Quilt clue number 5 to share with you today. So, as always, we get our little package, and it comes with our direction sheet of what we're supposed to have in our package, all of our clues and sizes and all that. So make sure you do measure them. I haven't had an issue in a while, but if you do, you can go on the Cotton Cuts website, and there's actually a page specifically to notify them of an issue. So measure all your pieces, alright? So this month, I've got the small size, and we are doing 2 of these. So literally that is all we're doing, so nice and quick and simple this month. We're making a bunch of half square triangles, and that's the majority of it, and then there's just a couple of solid pieces that we sew on. So I have 3 different colors for my half square triangles. I have a square and then 2 different rectangles. So this is what you're going to have for your for each piece. And when you guys are getting ready to do this, make sure you have your color sheet, because otherwise you're going to get really lost, because it'll say put another number 1 with a number 3. And if you can see, this is all black and white. So it makes it really, really hard to know what fabrics, because for mine, I have 2 oranges that are just slightly different shades, but without that little handy dandy one's 4 and one's 5, I wouldn't always know if I don't have both shades in my hand. So just something to think about. Make sure you have this. I always put it with my previous month, and that way I have it easily accessible. Alright, so that's the main things that came, and then this month we got a little surprise too. We got these cute little candies, and I haven't opened it up yet, but I got them in one of my old one of my old Cotton Cuts boxes, and they're really, really, really good. These are by papabubble2.com. So super, super good, fun little treats. So thank you, Cotton Cuts, for including that this month. And so this month's pretty simple. I have a suggestion of how to improve, tips, tricks, that sort of thing. So this is from Susan. So Susan says she attacks, when she does long strips, she pins in the middle and then an end and works pins into the rest of the fabric. And I tried that this month, and it works pretty well. So I'll show you guys what I do for that. Friendly PSA, probably a good time to change your needle if you haven't done that yet. You know, needles are relatively cheap, and it makes a huge difference if you have a good fresh needle. Also, don't forget to clean out your machine. With all the sewing we've been doing, you probably have a little bit of lint, and with a new needle, a clean machine, rethreading if needed, you should be good to go for a bit. So that's my little PSA. The new sign-ups for the spring 2019 are going to be here on the 7th. So you only have a couple of days. Go on the Cotton Cuts website and check out all of the different colorways. I already have a couple of front runners, and I think it opens 7 a.m. Pacific Standard, if I'm not mistaken. But double check on the website and sign up as soon as you can if you do like one of those, because sometimes they sell out within like 24 hours of that particular colorway. So make sure you check that out. Comments, concerns, suggestions, all that kind of good stuff, put it down in the comments below. If you guys have any tips or tricks that you want to share with us, I will pick one and put it in my video next month, and you might be my featured viewer. So if you have anything, share with us, please. We very much appreciate it. Hit the subscribe, hit the ding dong, and that way you never miss a video from me. And if you want to sew along for me, with me, stay tuned, and we'll get started in just a few minutes. But if not, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next month. So for our section 1, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to start making our half square triangles. And we are going to have 2 different types. We're going to have your 1 and 5 and your 1 and 3. So for me, my 1 is this white, my 3 is my blue, and my 5 is going to be this lighter orange. So pretty simple, half square triangles. Basically, you're just going to match up a white with your color. Make sure you've got them set up so it will become a half square triangle. Match up those little marks on the corners and pin or clip them together. What I like to do, I think I've told you guys probably multiple times at this point, I've gotten really into chain piecing. So I'm going to get all of these set up and ready to go. And then once I have them all pinned, what I can do is I can just sew all of them together at the same time. And as I'm putting them together, remember we do right sides together, the pretty sides together. I will admit I was doing this last night and I got so excited that my package was here and I just started sewing willy-nilly, and I look when I go to press and I go, huh, yeah, I did not do that right. I put a pretty side with a back side, so make sure y'all are paying attention, doing a better job than I did. Alright, so almost done pinning or clipping, depending on which way you like to do it. Maybe you are good enough that you don't even have to do that and you can just kind of hold them together and push it through. And I don't know. If you are, maybe I'll get that good someday. We'll find out. Alright, so that's going to take care of all of my half square triangles. So I'm going to get us started here. I just rethreaded this and I haven't actually set up, haven't taken it up from the bobbin yet. So my machine, I was really lucky. This has one of those little bobbin thread helpers that really helps me do this quickly. So I'm going to pull up my bottom real quick. And the reason I wanted to show you this is if you're anything like me, you usually have just a teeny bit in there, then you don't want to stick your finger in because that's how you get a needle through your finger. So I learned this trick, don't know who, don't remember, but just using a little tweezers or something that you can get in there without sticking your finger underneath the needle. Alright, so I'm going to get my leader set up. I know we've talked about this before, and I've actually gotten through probably half of all my colors just by making them leaders and enders. So it's pretty useful. Alright, go to hold my threads. Gotta get my leader started. Pull out my needles. Give it a couple stitches, and then I'm ready to go on my half square triangles. So don't forget, we're going for a scant 1/4 inch seam. And by that, it's not going to be regular scant, or it's not going to be a regular 1/4 inch. It's going to be scant, so it's just a little bit less than a 1/4 inch. And if yours is not a scant, you're going to find that when you're putting the longer strips on, you might be just a teensy bit off. So do try to make it a scant 1/4 inch. And on all of our directions, it actually, the front page, it says, you know, here's a way to check if you have a scant 1/4 inch. So if you're not sure, you're having trouble, make sure you take a look at that, because that's a really good skill to develop. Even for me, when I've got a 1/4 inch foot now, hallelujah, I love this thing. Even for me, I have to pay attention that I'm getting a scant and not just a regular 1/4 inch. But this makes a world of difference. It makes it much easier to eyeball it. So I'm going to finish sewing up these half square triangles, excuse me. And then we're going to go over and press them, and then we'll move on to the next step. Alright, so we should have 5 of these half square triangles put together now. 3 of one color, 2 of another. And I like pressing to the dark. Some folks will press open. Either way, it's up to you. There might have to be some adjustments when the time comes to put the whole thing together, but considering the directions don't say, you can kind of do what you want. So, pressing to the dark, I have the dark fabric up. Make sure you can see. There we go. I'm going to press and roll back. So, as I've said before, there's no ironing. It's literally press to set the seam and open up. And you can see that you're not seeing my stitches on this interior of the seam. If you did that, you pressed it too far, you're pushing it and not just really pressing it. And it's nice and square. So that is how you want your half square triangles to come out. And if you're having trouble, you know, it's a skill, honestly. You just got to keep practicing. What I have learned is that when I'm pressing and then rolling it back, I just gently roll versus like push. And that maybe that mental image will help. And I also don't, you know, obviously wiggle it around if I can help it. So that hopefully should make it easy. There's not much else to this whole pressing thing. Like I said, basically I tend to go towards the dark side, and I will be doing that through all of my pieces. So if you have any questions on pressing, let me know. This is probably the only little demo I'll do today. Also, make sure your iron is set to the right temperature. I was making this yesterday, so my iron was set to a much, much cooler temperature. Oops. It works. It's still ironed. Alright, so I'm going to get back to my sewing machines and start putting these half square triangles into a strip. So for this next part, we're going to be putting our half square triangles into a strip of 4. So the first one you're going to lay out is your 1 and 5, which is my orange fabric, with your orange on the bottom. There we go. Next is going to be your 1 and 3, again, your color on the bottom, a 1 and 5, color on the bottom, pressing, or it's the bottom right, if that makes sense. And then you're going to have one more, bottom to the right. Your other one will be matched with this colored square. So you can go ahead and put those aside for the moment. Since I'm chain piecing, I'm going to actually sew those at the same time that I'm sewing these guys. So it should be a 1 and a 3 with, and this is color number 4. And when you're doing that, you're to have your color triangle on the same bottom right hand corner, and then have your number 4 square be on the right of that. So that's, there you go, so that's right here. So that's what you're going to be putting together. So I'm just going to flip one on top of the other. This is the seam that I'm sewing, so I'm going to make sure I get the corners lined up. Get that clipped. Same on this one. And I'll do the same on that half square triangle with the square. So that way I can sew all of these at the same time. It makes things a little bit quicker. And then I can keep rocking and rolling from there. Alright, so these guys are all sandwiched nicely. So now I'm going to go ahead and sew. So there's a couple of different ways of looking at this, and depending on how you feel, you can do it either top like this for me, and the reason I do that is because my seam my seam is pointing towards the dark, so it won't be getting flipped up. So I like doing it that way. You can also do with the flap on top, and then you can kind of watch it a little bit better. And I like doing that with my half square triangles. So for this one, since I've got just a regular square on top, and I can make sure that the fold of the half square triangle isn't going to get folded over the wrong way. That's what I'll do with the square on top. Okay, now for these ones, take a look. So if I'm sewing along this edge here, I'm going to be catching this one. And as I'm sewing, I'm also going to be flipping that one back. So it's really just a matter of however you feel most comfortable adjusting them. I'm going to have it so that when I'm sewing, this keeps going down flat, and as I'm coming to this, it presses it flat as well. So for me, that seems to work best with keeping my seams from getting wonky and pressed the wrong way, and then I have to adjust them, and it's a big pain in the rear end. And also I can just kind of look and pay better attention to it. Same one of this. I'm going to flip it over so that the seams are the way I want them. I'm going to finish sewing it, and I'm going to go take it to the pressing station, press it, and then I'll be back to work on the next step with y'all. So I've got this little piece and then two of these guys. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and match it up with a 6. So the 6 is going to match up with your square, your solid square. So I'll just go ahead and get those pinned or clipped together. And then your two sets of half square triangles. You're going to want it to be number 1 and a 5, which is going to be this orange one here, your 1 and your 3, and then you're going to double that again. So 1, 5, 1, 3, 1, 5, 1, 3. So it's going to, for me, it's going to be orange, blue, orange, blue. And I'm going to get those lined up. So I've just got these two sections to do sewing wise, and then as soon as those are done, I have a strip I can put on and then put everything together, and I'm done. So this month is almost done already. Let me get these sewn up and I'll be back to show you what the other two sections look like. So the last piece that you have yet to use is your number 1, which is this nice long strip. So this strip is going to be attached to the top of your half squares triangle strip, and we're going to have white touching white. In my case, it's, you know, white for my number 1. Yours might be a different shade. It might be completely different pattern, but make sure these two matching fabrics are touching each other. So once I get this sewn together, then I'm going to attach this strip to this one that I just made, and that is going to be the month of November, so it's almost done. Alright, so our suggestion today was that we take the middle, find the middle of our strip, and I'm just going to finger press a seam in it, find the middle, and then I will use that middle, you can kind of see the ridge right there, and if you did it just right, you should be able to match that up with that seam that's in between the two sections of half square triangles. So pin it in the middle, pin it at the end, and then, so I've got middle and the end, and then you can pin in between. And that should have everything lining up nicely for you. So pinned in the middle, pinning it at the end, and in between. And you'll notice that this doesn't give me any slop. There's no weird overlap on my edges. It's all pretty much even. This one's just a teensy bit off, but not by much. So that looks pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and take a look at my seams, and all of them but this one are going the same direction. So I'm gonna make sure that I sew this top down to catch at least these two seams pointing the right way. So it's another reason for watching which direction you're doing your seams. It makes it a lot smoother if they're all pressing the same way when I'm trying to do this. But that's alright. We live, we learn, right? The world is not going to end because I pressed a seam the wrong way. Sewing is supposed to be fun. It definitely does get stressful, and at that point I need to just put stuff down and walk away. Help if you actually see what I'm doing. There we go. So I'm just barely steering this fabric through. I know we talked about it one of the previous months that we don't want to be yanking the fabric, we don't want to be pushing the fabric, pulling the fabric. We're letting the feed dogs do the work. And it is just sliding through the machine. I'm using my fingers to adjust the direction slightly. But you can see I have a very light touch of my fingers. So I'm not doing a whole lot of heavy lifting, so to speak. If you haven't gotten a walking foot for your machine yet, that's probably one of your best investments if you're going to quilt anything, because the walking foot has both those, it'll engage the feed dogs that your machine has already, but then the foot itself has its own little top feed dogs. So it helps everything come through nice and smooth without any bunching or pushing or pulling. So I'm going to include my ender. And one of the things I love about enders, besides keeping my fabric from getting eaten by the machine, and besides the fact that I can work on 2 projects at once, is I don't have to lift up my presser foot and pull a bunch of thread out of the way. I snip and I take out my pieces and I'm done. So you save a lot of thread as well. Alright, so here's the piece that we just put together. That's what it looks like. And then I'm going to put the top part on here. So, go have that laid down like that. And then what's going to happen is you're going to have your 6 fabric meet up with these 2. So it's going to be on the bottom right hand corner. But I'm going to go ahead and press this, and then I'll sew my other piece on. So I've got everything pressed, and I know I say I press the dark, but in this case, because you have so many seams right here, I press towards my light strip, my number 1 strip, and that just makes it really easy to push the fabrics, and then you don't have all this bunching up at your points. You can see when I sewed it, this guy got a little ugly, and that definitely happens, but it's not the end of the world. Life will go on, sewing will still happen, it'll be alright. So I'm going to take this last piece here, and I'm going to turn it so that my long rectangle, my number 6, is at the bottom right hand corner. Then I'm going to take this guy, make sure my white's at the top, and that's going to make sure I have it all situated correctly. It's supposed to look like this. I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to nest those seams as best I can. In this case, so you're going to see that both of these are going the same direction. I'm just going to push one over to the other side so that I can nest. And in this case, that's okay because it's just my square and my rectangle. So it's not going to cause any issues, but it's going to make my seams go together so much nicer. So that is going to be my middle point. So I'm going to go ahead and get my seam set on that. I'm going to pin at the ends again. And then pin in the middle. So we are almost done, y'all. Gotta get that sewn together. Gonna have another seam that I need to flip. Well, that's alright. That's the joy of doing this. You can flip some of them if you want. Some of them you can't very well, and then you have a seam which twists, so it's not ideal, but do what works best for the circumstance you have at hand. Alright, and this has no seam to worry about. So I'm just gonna get it clipped. There we have it. I'm gonna sew this guy together and then we'll be done. Alright everybody, that is it. This is the panel that we just completed. And notice if you do everything just right, these seams should line up really nicely. So we have our 2 pieces that we did this month. We are on month 5, which means we're already halfway done. I'm kind of having a hard time thinking of, you know, just the little bits and pieces that I put together so far and having that already be half of a quilt. It's kind of crazy. But hopefully y'all are enjoying it and are still excited about it. The Puzzle Mystery Quilts sign-ups are just a few days away, December 7th. So make sure you take a look at what they have on the Cotton Cuts website and pick out your new colorway for the spring 2019. I already have a couple of ones picked out for myself. Which one I get, I don't know yet. But definitely take a look, y'all. I hope that we can sew along again in 2019 for the new one as well. Questions, comments, concerns, as always, drop me a line and I will respond as soon as I can. Hit the notification ding-dong button so you never miss a video, and hopefully I will see you again next month. Alright, thanks.